Well, outside of Molly's fantastic performance, you witnessed a world record once again. And I was telling you, I want to know what the world record is for the most person watching world records, because you've seen it all.
I've seen 3 world records in a month. Like less than a month.
Wild.
Like 3 weeks, because we saw 2 at Prefontaine, you and I, and then I got to go to Chicago and saw 1 there. I don't know. I guess we got to keep it rolling.
We got to keep it rolling. So you just need Ashley at your meets if you want to break world records. But Kelvin Kiptum breaks the world record in the marathon, 2:00:35. Just absolutely fantastic. And I know you were there, so can you walk me through what that was like, just watching him going mile after mile? And you were texting me too, like, we're about to see a world record go down.
Yeah,
what was that whole experience like?
I was freaking out internally, and I'm texting you like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. Going to this race, I feel like all eyes are really on 2 things, right? Kelvin Kiptum, obviously, and the weather. Yeah. And, there's a few reasons for this, right? You're looking at Kelvin Kiptum. He was the top entrant going into Chicago. His prior 2 marathons in Valencia and London, he went under 2:02 both those times, like 2 of the top times ever run. So, with that kind of performances behind you, like there was definitely like that commotion, like could we see a world record? Like it was definitely something that was being brought up and it was in the cards, especially, going into Chicago, which is, it's a flat course. It can be fast when the weather is good. So, really that question was, okay, we have, a top tier athlete who we think could probably challenge this record, but just like, the other question too is, will the weather be favorable for a time like this? And thankfully, the forecast, going in, it was, mid to high 40s at the start time. And thankfully the Windy City wasn't like super windy that day. It was about, I think gusts were maybe up to like 14 miles an hour, but that's ridiculous. Totally it was like 8 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So just perfect racing conditions. And then, once the race unfolds, on Sunday, you look at just how it unfolded, right? And it's just, I'm still kind of like speechless over it, just because how he ran that race was pretty remarkable to me. He went out really hard early on with those pace setters. He ends up dropping more than half of his pace setters at the first water station, I believe. And then, at halfway, there's, no pacers in sight. It's just him against the clock. And I think when I really knew that he was going to break that world record was when I think it was mile 22. He split 4:18 on his mile.
That's ridiculous.
And I'm like, this guy's rolling. Like, there's no one there. Like, he is getting this record. Like, there's no doubt. And it happened. And I think myself and everyone in the media room, I think we were all just like gasping, like our jaws dropped. We're like, because we haven't seen anything like this from anyone really besides Kipchoge, you know? And it's been, we haven't seen anyone go under that 2:01 barrier. And so now it's like really putting into perspective, like we could see someone on a legit course, legal pacing and whatnot, legal conditions, standard conditions, go under 2 hours. Like, it's insane.
I'm happy you brought that up because I was thinking about that when I saw his official time. And again, like the weather just happened to really be on point, great conditions. I think we can see that happen. As crazy as that may seem, like perfect conditions, everything goes right. I think we can see sub 2.
You get a good course, maybe. I mean, I know afterwards he talked a little bit about the Olympics, but maybe he decides to just shoot for Berlin instead and go after, that's a place where, Kipchoge previously had the world record of 2:01:09 from Berlin. Maybe he goes after that there. Who knows?
And I think what's also mind-blowing is his mindset going into this race. Like, there was no world record talk whatsoever. His goal was to break the Chicago course record by Dennis Kimetto, which was 2:03:45, which was set nearly a decade ago. Like, he obliterated that.
Because I specifically, I was sitting there at the press conferences, and I think someone maybe asked, like, is the world record in play? And he's like, I'm going after the course record. Like, that's all he said. He was going after the course record. And then even afterwards, too, he was like, the world record was not on my mind. I mean, maybe it was on his mind, but he just didn't say it. But, like, that course record was on his mind, and he gets it. And I think the other thing, too, is, like, I believe that, again, I think the overall theme is, like, mind-blowing here. But another mind-blowing fact to me is that in his post-race press conference, didn't look like someone who just broke the world record. And then I believe it was Jonathan Galt from Let's Run asked him if he's ever felt pain in a marathon? And her response was, I haven't. I haven't felt pain in a marathon.
What?
I have a hard time.
No lactic acid buildup. None of that.
I've ran a marathon that was painful. So, I mean, I'm obviously not the same kind of athlete, but.
No pain, though.
No pain.
Just a steel human being then. And even just diving into it a little bit more, like, he shaved 34 seconds off Kipchoge's marathon world record. He's only 23, which is something remarkable. And this was his third marathon. I'm like, still very young in the marathon wheelhouse of things, putting out a world record. I was even speechless. I'm still speechless now.
Yeah, still crazy. It was really cool to see, in person.
Yeah.
And overall, just it was a very electric environment, especially, seeing a world record there.
I bet it was. Along with Kiptum's world record, Sifan Hassan runs the number 2 all-time 2:13.44. What were your thoughts on just her? Let's pause. Her whole entire season, absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
Tripling at Worlds.
Yep.
6 weeks later, comes and runs a full marathon, number 2 all time. How does Hassan do it? How?
I don't know. That's a great
How?
question because, gosh, so I want to take it back first to the London Marathon earlier this year. That was where Sifan Hassan made her, debut at the marathon distance.
Yeah.
Crazy race for her. She has to stop at one point to walk, but she still ends up winning the race in her debut marathon. I remember when that happened and everyone was like, holy crap, what did we just witness? How did that happen? And then, now you flash forward to the summer in Budapest, she triples at Worlds. She's still doing marathon training while she's in Budapest. So while, she's focusing on racing, she's also focusing on, hey, in 6 weeks, I got to do this marathon again. And then she goes into the Chicago Marathon against, a pretty stacked field with
Very
the defending
stacked.
champion.
Yeah.
And she comes away with the win. And if not for that Berlin race a few weeks ago, it would have been the fastest marathon of all time. But, 2:13.44, second fastest ever.
Did you expect this? This outcome? Just knowing that you had the 2-time defending champion Ruth in this race. Ruth was also winning the first half. Did you think Hassan was going to be able to respond and put herself out there?
I had a feeling that I feel like Hassan in a way she's such a gamer, that she's gonna try her very best to go out there and she can compete with anyone in the world. Obviously she's one of the best in the world. I don't know if I expected that time, but I definitely thought she was in contention for that win for sure.
Just insane.
Yeah.
Do you think she has just knowing her range, which is really scary to think about, is there one event that she's just that is her sweet spot?
I don't know. I know afterwards, because, the question obviously comes up okay, you can, run on the track, but then you can also, you're the second fastest all time in the marathon. What's she going to do at the Olympics next year?
Yes.
Is she going to, what is she going to do? What's her thought process? I know someone asked her afterwards, her mindset, and she was like, I don't know. She's like, I'm going to see how I can recover. I'm in pain right now, so we'll see. I think that was the best part, actually, the thing I like about Hassan is she's actually very relatable, right?
Yes.
The first thing she said after the race, they're like, take us through it. And she's like, oh, man, that last 5K, I was in so much pain. I was debating mid-race, if I ever wanted to do one again. And she runs the second fastest time ever. I love that relatability because, everyone's feeling that kind of pain. Elite athletes are like everyone else.
It's remarkable. And to even dive into it a little bit more, after the halfway point, Ruth was winning at 1:05.42. Hassan was 6 seconds back. And what's even crazier is that was 33 seconds slower than her half marathon personal best. So she was moving.
Yeah.
She
they went out
screw
fast.
that.
The pacemakers, they set a quick pace knowing, the weather was favorable. It's Chicago. It's fast. They were going after it.
And then eventually Hassan just continued to just keep pressing after between 25 and 30 kilometers, built a 10-second lead on Ruth. And even though the world record was somewhat out of reach, she was able to break the 2019 course record of 2:14.04. And for those of you who don't know, that was formerly the world record.
Yes.
And so the fact that she even dipped underneath that is just super remarkable to think about.
Yeah, Again, it was a crazy fast day. Both sides for the Chicago Marathon.
Insane.
I did not expect, I don't know what I was expecting when I was going. I was like, I don't know what we're going to witness here, but it was like a, check it off the bucket list, see a marathon world record. So that was pretty cool.
Ashley has been a part of a lot of world records,
yes,
so if you need, if you're going for a world record attempt, please reach out to her.
I was going to say,
and she can be there.
Send me a note, and maybe I'll be there. So that seems to be the trend.
Be there in person. And then last kind of piece to marathon talk right now, we had 2 American men qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympics, and
well, they hit the standard.
They hit the standard. Yes, yeah. Exactly. So, of course, when it comes to running, there's certain standards that they have to hit, and then again, you go to trials, compete, and get those top spots. But let's talk about them because you had an opportunity to chat with them as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a big day for the American men. You have training partners Connor Mantz and Clayton Young. They come into this race and they both dip under that 2:08:10 Olympic standard. Young, clocks 2:08 flat, and then Connor Mantz is just under 2:08 in that 2:07 range, and so. Like, that's definitely, like, a huge moment for the U.S., right? Because kind of the question was, like, when are we going to see someone hit that standard? So we know that we could have potentially, at least some people lining up in Paris.
Yeah.
And obviously, you still have the trials, and if other people get that standard to, say at the trials ahead of them, like, that could, shape up, like, who's going to actually represent the U.S. in Paris. But, like, this is just a really important moment, obviously, for U.S. marathoning. And again, I think it's a cool story because they're both training partners. I believe they said since 2017. I think they both went to BYU, I believe. They're out there in Provo, Utah. And so I thought that was really cool. One thing I do want to mention, too, that I thought was an interesting note is, like, while both Connor and Clayton, like, acknowledge that, like, this was such a big day for the American men, they both also acknowledge that, like, okay, but also we just saw like a 2 flat world record, and they want to be able to, they hope it motivates marathoners to be able to, maybe work up to being able to compete more at that level on an international scale, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, and they're the first 2 American men to do so, which I think is great. So again, we might have some Americans do that. I know a couple years ago we were kind of reflecting on something similar to this back at this moment too when it came to the throws for the Americans, and now we're starting to see this wave of great talented throwers, and I'm hoping that we can do the same too when it comes to marathon and marathon running, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see all of this. So that kind of sums it up for the Chicago Marathon talk.